Welcome to Beyond the Velvet Rope with Neal Oates Jr, the podcast that takes you on an extraordinary journey into the world of luxury service. Join us as we unlock the secrets, stories, and strategies behind exceptional experiences. From anticipating VIP needs to crafting unforgettable memories, we'll guide you on a path to service excellence in the realm of the affluent. Let's elevate your expertise and redefine the art of world-renowned service. Here's your host, Neal Oates Jr.
Welcome to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. Neal Oates Jr. here. Today's guest is a powerhouse of leadership, strategy, and entrepreneurial wisdom. Roy Cammarano is a multi-time CEO, author, and executive advisor who has spent decades, yes, decades, guiding leaders through the real-world challenges of building purposeful, profitable, and that's the part that we like, organizations. He's the creator of the 6 R's framework, a proven system that helps companies align culture, capability, and execution. And he's known for his candid, no-fluff approach to growth and transformation. But for me, and probably for you, more importantly, Roy doesn't just talk theory. He's been in the trenches as a founder, turnaround expert, and board member across multiple industries. Whether you're leading a startup, scaling a team, or just rethinking your leadership style, Roy brings a perspective that is both deeply strategic, but for me, refreshingly human. Let's get ready for a conversation that blends experience with insight and leaves you with actionable takeaways that you can apply right now. Roy, it is an absolute honor and a privilege, sir, to have you with us today.
I'm ecstatic, and I love that introduction. I'm either going to have to give a raise to the person who wrote that or find out who wrote that, because if you read it, you did really well, and lots of good. I appreciate that.
So, Roy, here's what I would do. I will send you all of the payment requests and information. It will be attached to the invoice.
Nice.
So Roy, I had a lot of stuff in here. I've done my research and looked you up, but what didn't I say about you that you think would be valuable for our audience today, sir?
I think probably the most important part of this is, and earlier today I had a conversation with one of the people I'm working with about impact and legacy. And it's that thing that says, what will somebody say when you're not there that you really want them to say? And I really want them to say things like, he was helpful, not hurtful. He was helpful, not a hindrance. When I left, I felt like I had gained more. Okay, so I really want that to touch people's heart, touch people's intellect, touch people's purpose, to really take them to a very different level. The easiest example I can give you is the transition I talk about with your to-do list and making it a to-do list. Everybody is going to go to the store. I have a to-do. I have to buy food. I don't have to. I choose to. So to change that simple thing from a to-do of going to the grocery store and getting food to I get to go. I get to pick nutritional things. I get to cook it. I get to serve my family. I get to serve my friends. I get to create all the wonderful blessings that come from this kind of interaction. So it changes all of your to-dos to to-dos. It's an I choose to mentality. And I choose to pour into people in the hope that they will help someone else. Each person who you're kind to, hopefully they're kind to somebody else. Each one teach one. So what is not in my bio is the thing that I think is probably the differentiator for me, which is I actually care.
Okay, and so that's where I want to begin. The very last thing is going to be the first thing that we start with. Where does that come from? Because we mentioned your resume when it comes to businesses and turnaround, but you don't speak like someone who is strictly about the numbers and the bottom line. You're speaking as if, and coaching as if you care about more than just what's on that profit and loss. Where does that come from, Roy?
I think it comes from working with entrepreneurs who are out to change the world, not just make money. right? If you want to change or make a significant contribution to the world, if you want to do good, you have to do good. And in order to do good, you have to be good. And in order to be good, okay, you have to really care. So I would say that I care about the result, but what's the result, right? The 6 R's that you mentioned, right? What are the roles? What are the rules? What are the responsibilities? What's the relationship? What are the results? And what are the rewards? Those are the 6 R's. And I can go through all the toolboxes and all the other wonderful things. But the difference is that when you are trying to make a significant contribution either to the world, to your business, to your family, to your church, to your community, to whatever, you have to understand that it is through people and only through
Okay.
people that things change.
So you mentioned only through people, but even before that, you said something that you want to work with entrepreneurs who want to change the world.
Correct.
What would you say to those who are saying, Roy, I'm with you. I used to be there, but this thing called life, this thing called
Mm,
entrepreneurship, the experience has just beat me up. And I don't know if I can still change the world. I don't know if I believe I could still change the world. What is
mm.
Roy saying to that entrepreneur, that small business, that startup? What would you say to them if that's where they find themselves today as they listen to us have this conversation?
First thing I would tell them is take a deep breath. If you can breathe, you can believe. Just remember that if you can breathe, you're ready to get there. God would not put in your mind and would not have put in your heart. You would not
Come
be
on,
in that
sir.
situation if you couldn't get there. So what you have to do is you have to re-tap into that strength, not all the distractions, not the getting beat up from the feet up. It's that kind of stuff. That you wouldn't it wouldn't have been put there if you weren't meant to achieve it. So the bottom line is that you got to stop, assess it, look at it, accept it, and then take the next step forward. That's the only way it's going to work is if you stop and you back up, then you're letting forces that shouldn't be allowed to win. And I really believe that we've got to be understand that if it's in your heart, if it's in your head, it will become a part of who you are. And yeah, there's going to be setbacks. The world can be a cruel place. I choose to be grateful. When we do things every day, we can either be mad or glad. The difference is your perspective.
Now, I will tell you all that from the moment that Roy came on to the camera with me, it has been nothing but smiles and laughs. And so, if you're watching this episode, you're probably thinking, of course, he's laughing, smiling. Roy doesn't look like he's been through anything. He's lived a life of privilege. He's a multi-time CEO, author, turnaround expert, all of this.
Mhm.
But that is not the entire story. And so here's what I'm willing to bet. You've had to learn and glean some things through experience. And so what I want to ask you, Roy, in your 40 plus years in leadership, right? We did mention decades, plural. In your decades of leadership, what's one truth about business that, from your opinion, that most leaders still get wrong today?
Ooh. I'm going to start. I'm going to go back a little bit to what I said earlier, and I'm going to give you a little story for you of context. Context. I believe that any business has three resources or three things, right? People, time, and money. Time is finite, right? We all know the answer 365 days. You can go all the way down to 60 seconds. And it exists. And the next thing is that it's people, time, and money. That money is assets. It's things that exist. It's having a computer, having this. That's money. It's having cash flow. But realistically, nothing happens that doesn't happen unless people are doing those things. So the resourcefulness, it's not resources, it's resourcefulness of what you do there. And I think what happens for lots of entrepreneurs is they forget that it's about resourcefulness and they talk about resources. They forget that you can have three levels of thinking, which is limited, limiting, and limitless. And if you think in a limited manner, if I had money, I could do this. Limiting, I have this amount of money, I can do this. The limitless is as I do this, I'm going to figure out ways in which to make this grow. Same decision, very different commitment levels. I'll try it, right? I'll think about doing it or I'll do it. So, it becomes there. And I mean, as a kid growing up, my father used to ask me one question all the time. Drove me crazy. God rest his soul, but it has stuck with me. Roy, why is there always enough time to do something over again, but never enough time to do it right the first time?
Roy, I think you and I, we got the same papa.
We could.
All of a sudden, I hear my dad, rest his
Hmm.
soul, in my ear. If you can't find time to do it right the first time, when are you gonna find time to do it over? Dad, listen, don't
And
bother me right now, old man.
yeah,
Come
well,
on,
and then
sir.
I converted that into one of my ad lib lines, right? Correct is more important than quick. Because oftentimes we create anxiety and we create timelines that aren't realistic, and we know they're not realistic, but we'll just go do the best we can do. And then when it doesn't work out, we go, well, I just didn't have enough time. Well, no, you had enough time. You just chose not to do it correctly
So,
as a
ladies
higher
and gentlemen,
priority than doing it quickly.
I am sitting here taking notes. Correct is more important than quick. So I am a student while I am also the teacher and collaborator. Thank you for that. And Roy, I will make sure that I give proper accreditation when I use your ad lib lines.
Thanks. I'm sure I adopted that from someone earlier in my career. I just don't remember who it is.
So Roy, I want to just continue down this path that we're going. You are an upbeat, lively gentleman, someone who it seems as if you are very optimistic, that you make the decision to be positive. Where does that come from? Because I'm sure the audience, they might say, okay, he told me that I have a choice and that I can make a decision. Well, what if I have my two decisions are bad and worse, right? I can't sit here and be grateful. I can't be optimistic about one of those two. But where can we, as an audience, where can I, as an woman, employee, employer, entrepreneur, what can I tap into to get a little bit of what you have?
Yeah, so you presented most of your information in an either or a binary situation. I can this or this or this. And I live in a yes and world, not a not a either or, a yes and world. Yes and. So yes, I have to make this decision. It's not the best decision, and I can work from it and get there. I have a couple things that I do. If you want to be a pro, it's spelled PRO. Here's the three things about being a pro: persistency, resourcefulness, and optimism. Now, let me go back in a second. For persistency, if you watch the TED Talks and you look at the number one and most important thing people have, it's grit. It's determination. It's that never say die. And your audience has it, everybody has it, but it's that digging into it, that persistency. Resourcefulness. Tony Robbins says it's not the resources, it's the resourcefulness of the people that are there that's most critical. And then optimism. If you choose to be optimistic, we have an optimism bias. If you believe things will work out, they often do. If you look at the law of attraction, if you look at the things that exist in the marketplace, if you kind of say, why do those people always have those opportunities? It's because they expect those opportunities. I expect when I start out that something's going to work out well. I expect that I'm going to get a great learning. Now, I've done things that when you're doing it, you're like, wow, what am I doing? I was going to a drugstore recently, and I consider myself a smart guy. I'm on your podcast. I want people to respect me and listen to me. I've written a bunch of books. People give me accolades. And I'm walking across the parking lot, and I look down and I go, what the hell does MO7 mean? And I'm like, I don't understand why somebody would write MO7S on a parking lot. So I continue on my way and I look it up on Google. I'm MO7S. It's like some scientific thing. I'm like, I don't understand it. So I get to the door and I turn around just to make sure I'm reading it right. It said slow. So every time I think I got everything figured out, I go, well, it's about perspective, isn't it? On one side of that sign, I thought it said MO7S. And on the other side of that sign, God said, okay, here you go. Pay attention.
Roy. So here, I'm telling you, sir, you had me over here. I'm like, let me do a research and let me try to help. Man, stop. I'm not playing with you. That was good though. You had me.
That's truth. It's a complete and total reality in my life. I'm curious. I want to know what's going to happen. I want to find out. I mean, I took the time to stop walking, write in MO7S, look at it, not understand it, continue my way. And gave me the perspective to just go back and re-look at what I was looking at from a different perspective, from a new and unique way. And I think every day that's a lesson we can learn, which is how do I look at this? There's a woman, and I don't remember her name, and I'm trying to give her credit for it, but she taught in a seminar one time, and she said, you can always have your way if you have more than one way.
This
Mind
is good
blown.
stuff, sir.
I get so fixed
Mind blowing.
mind. I get so fixed mind, I forget about the other ways in which we could do it, right? So if you don't care about who gets credit, lots of things can get done. If you don't care about how it gets done, lots of things can get done. What you have to do is you have to understand that you're creating a contribution to things.
Mhm.
as a business leader, as an executive, one of the things you have to keep in mind, especially if you have people working for you, is a frightened captain makes a frightened crew. Stuff is going to happen. Things are going to go wrong. What are you learning from the things that go wrong? Because that's more important than the things that go right. What are you learning
Good
in order
stuff.
to be more effective in the future? And if you're just in that situation to say, I'm learning, God's teaching me, I'm being educated. Oftentimes we say, oh, I'm so confused about what we do. And my response is, good. Einstein said, no significant learning can take place that isn't immediately preceded by a state of confusion. Now, I'm confused so much, I'm thinking I got to be a genius pretty soon. It's a matter of like, I don't know what to do. Well, let's just take a second to assess and figure out what we should do.
All
And
right,
that's
Roy,
that's where you go to.
I want to jump in here because my audience, I hope that you're enjoying this as much as I have, or as I am, because I'm doing a couple of things. I'm taking notes here, and then when I go back to post production, I'm going to take more notes, and then I'll listen to the episode again. But I realized something, Roy. You have this energy about yourself that you have chosen. You've decided to enjoy life, not take yourself so serious, but understand that life and business that they are serious things, right?
Absolutely.
So how do you get there? How do we get there? Maybe we're trying to start a business. We're trying to keep the lights on and try to balance the books. And we're saying, man, I wish I could find something to laugh about today. Or I know reality in life is going to happen, but I want to be optimistic in that as you are. So how do you balance that jovial spirit, but then also you're really good at what you do? Right. So, how do you
Mhm.
balance those where you're looking and seeing the reality, but you're also saying, well, yeah, but the sun is still shining?
I think life is a series of choices. If you don't like your life, make new choices, which is stolen directly from Tony Robbins, right? So when we look at decision making, which Peter Drucker tells us is the specific executive task, right? It's what we do. And if we look at our own lives, we have to be really careful because where we learn decision making was between the ages of 6 and 9 and primarily from our parents. Now think about this. Think
Mm.
about this as a human. I'm relying upon what I learned to make big decisions between what I learned between 6 and 9, and I didn't know I was learning it. Put that to the side. And then Morris Massey, who was a behavioral sociologist, incredibly smart, he said, by the age of 19, you are who you are unless you have a significant emotional experience. So set that to the side. Then we talk about it, and if you're married or talking to people, like my wife, we're going to be going somewhere, and she says, I don't have anything to wear. I go, hold on. I know that not to be true. So what is it that you're telling me? Because you've got plenty to wear. What you don't have is anything you're willing to wear to this event. I'm okay with that, but don't tell me it's because it's something you don't have. So this is what I want you to be
Now
really
stop
clear
right there,
on.
Roy. Roy, before we go any further, you're a smart man.
Oh,
Is
I don't
that the
tell her that.
response?
I'm telling you this.
See, listen,
No, I just say
I
buy what.
knew you were.
No. The right answer is buy what you need, sweetheart. It's okay. No. You got to choose your battles here. No, don't. I did not imply I was going to go tell her that. I'm giving you this as an example to learn from. Okay, discretion is the better part of valor. Sometimes.
A cautionary tale. I love it, Roy. Let's go, sir.
So in that instance, you know that the information isn't true. You have all the clothes that you need. And in reality, you want to do something new. And we tend to make these decisions, big life decisions, and we wonder why sometimes we don't have the skill to do it. So it's because we haven't practiced them. It's like we haven't practiced it. When you learn how to drive, you learn how to drive in exactly the right manner. And the first time somebody cuts you off, you can say, and you hit them, you can say, well, you weren't supposed to turn into my lane, and the law says you were supposed to avoid being hit or hitting them, right? And if you hit them, so the same thing is if you have accountability and responsibility for your life, if you have accountability and responsibility for other people, if you are looking at how you choose to live your life, and remember, it's a choice. You can, in fact, be serious and be okay that the information that you're getting in isn't going to be perfect, but you still have to make the best decision you can at that moment, and you have the ability to change that decision or improve that decision or continue your life. And if you take it too seriously, life or death, it's very difficult because I don't believe it's life or death, it's life or life.
Right,
And if you
right.
think about that philosophically, it's life or life, even in what traditionally would be the life or death situation. Snoopy on the cartoon, there's this thing where it says you only, And it's not really accurate. You only die once, and that's not even death. But if you live every day to that fulfillment and you just say, what is the universe teaching me now and how can I use that? What is the universe teaching me now and how can I use that? What is the universe teaching me and how do I do that? You cannot dwell on what happened because that's the past. You have to deal with the present, right? You have to deal with the present. And as you're dealing with things, Roger Federer has probably the best example of that in his 4-minute commencement street, where he talks about things. And for the listeners who don't know it, because I know you do the way you're nodding, he talks about in his matches in 20 years being in the top X number of people. He won 80% of his matches, but he only won 54% of his points. And in that, it was profound because barely more than half made him one of the greatest people in the world to do it. But you can't dwell on what happened. And he would say, I could have a shot and I would hit it into the net. That's only a point. I would double fault. That's only a point. I hit an overhead smash that made ESPN's top 10 shots of the decade. It's only a point. And what we have to realize is that it's the next point that's coming, because if I spend too much time, do I do an analysis? Yes. Do I understand it? Yes. But you have to really understand that your job, your career is about what you learn, how you apply it, and what you're going to do next.
And so on that, I want to continue down that path and talk about this STAR framework, because I do believe this can be beneficial to the audience wherever they are in life and business, some of the decisions that they're going to have to make today. But would you be willing to walk us through the 6 R's framework and what
Absolutely.
inspired it and why it's needed now more than ever? And that's my opinion, right? And I hope that you agree with that. But would you walk us through that, Roy?
I can, and I've been utilizing this as you so rightly pointed out, over 40 years. As you develop new skills, think a skill is a tool, and you put it into your toolbox. If you can't teach someone else to use that tool and it's only yours, it's not very useful. So I've created what's called the Entrepreneur's Toolbox, and the 6 R's is one of the fundamental parts of it, because it really helps entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial organizations or businesses in general really understand things from a simplified perspective. The 6 R's stand for role, rules, responsibility, relationship, results, rewards. So we start out by looking at the company. What is the role of the company? What are the rules of the company? And they're often connected to the values, right? Legal, moral, and ethical, or legal, ethical, and moral, depending upon the founders and the things that they believe, because you usually build from your value structure. Responsibilities, understanding that you're in a business and people have responsibilities to accomplish things. Relationships. How does what I'm doing contribute to what other people are doing? How does what they're doing contribute to me? And understand, what do I want my relationship to be with as a company, with the community, with my vendors, with my customers, with my employees. So what's that relationship I want? What's the role I want in that? Then what results am I looking for? Why am I doing this, right? And then what will be the rewards? And when you look at that, now you take that as organizationally, and now you do it in the marketing department, in the finance department, in the customer service department, however your structure is worked out. And you have, what is the role of this department as it relates to all these other things, right? And then you do it for every position. What is the role of an accounts receivable clerk? What are the rules of an account receivable? What's the relationship of an accounts receivable clerk to all the other things that are going on in the business? What results am I looking for from that? You're going to collect more money, right? And what are the rewards? You get a paycheck, you get a bonus, whatever those things are conceptually. But what happens is that you create a consistent framework. And this is really interesting. No society can exist without trust. The United States can't exist without trust. So, your culture, your core company can't exist without trust. But the basis, most fundamental building block of trust is consistency, which deals with, why don't you trust certain people? Because they're not consistent. Why do you trust certain people? Because they're consistent. It's pretty simple. But when you look at it at a deep psychological level, that consistency becomes important. These 6 R's give you that consistency that builds that trust, that allows you to create a culture so that people know what's expected of them, why that's expected of them, how to do their job, who they can depend on to do their job, and when that job needs to be done by. And if we're working in that harmony, right? And think about this now, you're a music conductor in an organization, and that's your score, that's your music. So when percussion comes up, they know what their role is. When the violins come up, they know what their role is. But if you haven't put that together in a process, then you have a battle of the bands, everybody playing what they want when they want. And that sounds terrible. And
No, continue, sir.
Well, and I think it's really important to understand that the accountability for success and failure is that of the founder of the business, the CEO, the leaders, right? And I think it's a really critical component that your job every day is to make the people around you better than they were the day before. And it's really interesting because I've been teaching this for 40 years and I came out of a very disciplined sports background, right? And elite levels in certain sports. But what I learned there is that I loved coaches, I hated managers, right? And we have this organizational structure where there's managers and leaders in organizations, and I can explain the 7 power bases of them. But just a change in taking your managers and make them coaches has improved efficiency and effectiveness in many companies by as much as 30%, just changing the title. Because when you think about what's a manager's job, is that you take the resources that they have and deliver a desired result. What's a coach's job is that the resources they have and to deliver a superior result. So I'd rather coach than manage. I'd rather help
Hmm.
people go up than have people come up. I'm going to push you. I'm not going to yell at you to get to that next level. You go do this. I don't want that. I want to say, how do we get there? How do we get there as a group, as a team? Early in my career, I was a sales manager. It was a Actually, we eventually became, I was a senior executive, Inc. Magazine's number 11 fastest growing publicly traded companies. And I had a particular area that I was engaged in doing, and they gave me a quota, and I ignored them. I didn't believe in quotas. And we exceeded by like 50, 70, 80, 200% what their quotas were. And so the CEO came to visit me. He goes, how do you assign quotas? And I said, I don't. He goes, well, that's a problem. I said, why is it a problem? He said, because we work on a quota system. I said, am I exceeding all of your metrics and all of your expectations? He goes, yeah, that's why I'm here. And I said, so what you just told me is if I don't follow your rules, okay, how's everybody else doing compared to me? Because you're here. And he said, well, how do you do this? And I said, it's easy. We have a compensation structure. I take the 15 people in sales who work here. I ask them, how much money do you want to make? Here's our compensation structure. And then I ask them, what do you want to accomplish? What kind of car do you want to drive? Create vision boards. Then when they tell me how much money they want to make, that gets directly coordinated to what I believe is our goal. Our goal is always 3 times higher than your quota, but I'm not going to tell you that because I don't want you to raise my quota 3 times, right? Because you bonus me on beating quotas. So I spend my entire day walking up to people saying, how can I help you accomplish your goal? And I'll say, or is what you're doing right now in your own best interest? And they'll say, yeah, I'll say, teach me. And they tell me. And sometimes they'll say, oh, no, I'll go work on this harder. But every day I'm trying to help them accomplish something, which then the next level down helps us accomplish this. And the reason you're here is because in this market, I've 3x'd what you thought was humanly possible. And you want to know what I did. And then the first thing you did was told me it's a problem if I don't give somebody a quota.
Good stuff, Roy Cammarano. I just wanted to pause here so to make sure that everyone knew your name so they can go back and say, man, this stuff is too good just for this podcast. And we are going to be sharing Roy's contact info in the show notes. So make sure that you go there and get some information so that you can continue this journey. But I want to continue with these 6 R's, Roy, if you're okay
Mm-hmm.
with that. From your
Yes.
opinion, you're looking at leaders, and we've heard a couple of different things or this year, in the past, I would say 4 or 5 years, talking about a leadership shortage. Some are saying a leadership crisis. But I want to ask you, as someone who has been in the trenches and someone who's now looking, but also leading from a very high level, which of the 6 R's do you believe that leaders are struggling with the most in today's time and society and
It's
business
it. You have no
world?
idea what a brilliant question you've just asked, because it comes down to this. Even though there's 6 R's, what are the roles? What are the rules? What are the responsibilities? What are the relationship? What are the results? What are the rewards? The breakdowns always occur at the relationship level. People begin to go into conflict and competition. Well, if Sally in finance wouldn't have told me this, and John and what or well, I didn't know that wasn't supposed to be, or these internal conflict and bickering, right? And so I have another tool called the 6 C's, right? And in that 6 C's on the left side, it's conflict and competition. Internally, you're going to fail. If you have compliance and communication, you're going to succeed. If you have cooperation and collaboration, you will prosper. And I can send you those tools so you can put those into your deal. But what happens is that if in the relationship fails, if the communication breaks down, if people create blaming culture, then it becomes very difficult. Then that culture of performance goes away. And in the 6 R's, there's some derivative steps. All right. Do the people have the knowledge, the tools, and the support to do their job? They understand the personality of the business, the performance of the business, and the purpose of the business? And those are Venn diagrams that interact. In the middle of a Venn diagram, right dead center, if you do it with three, almost always there's a heart. And that's what you have to do, is you always have to look at the heart of your business. What do you believe, and how do you believe it? So I've taken over 11 different times as an interim CEO of companies, and I immediately implement one rule. Oh, well, it's three rules, but one thing, which is positive expectancy, brilliance, and accomplishment. So you asked me earlier about that optimism bias. I put it in as a requirement. Positive expectancy. What we did now will work out. How do we make it work out? Positive expectancy. Constantly looking for positive expectancy. Sometimes it's difficult, but you have to understand you're getting a learning and you're going to get there. The second rule, brilliance. I believe everybody has a really good reason for everything they say and everything they do. Now, sometimes I don't have any idea why they would do that, and I'm frustrated, okay? But I take the moment to say, hold on, they have a good reason for doing it. Educate me, teach me, show me what you did. And sometimes I go, huh. And then so you have positive expectancy, brilliance, and then accomplishment. And accomplishment's really important. Wooden, in his book, talks about the difference between activities and accomplishments. And I really want to talk about accomplishments, because if you can do these things, have positive expectancy, expect brilliance, and accomplish things, your business will grow. You will grow as a person. The people who work for you will grow. And that becomes a really important set of rules, because remember the consistency I talked about earlier? Those three things being consistent is really important. It's like my 6 E's of ideas. People always say, oh, I have a great idea. I'm like, okay, give it to me. Embrace it. 6 E's: embrace, educate, enhance, excite, empower, execute. So they give you an idea and you're like, wow, that's great. Educate. Oh, that's great. Oh, and we could do this and this and this. Now I've contributed to it. Now I'm excited, right? Now I want to empower people. I want them to really take this and go. And then we execute the idea, because an execution is everything, right? But sometimes they have an idea, and when you embrace it, you kind of go, whoa, hold on a minute here. When they educate you, you're like, what you talking about? when when you enhance it, you're like, this is real. I don't know. You go to get excited. I can't get excited. Empower people. I don't want to empower people. Execute it. Kill it. Don't let it go anywhere. So the execute becomes again important, which is stop it and move on, right? And so in this toolbox I have, you also have an idea, right? I give an idea score. On a scale of 1 to 10, it could be a 10. But our ability through resources in the organization makes it a -2. Like if I do that, I'm going to have to sacrifice all the other things. And sometimes it's a 9 idea. It's a really good idea, but it's so easy to implement. I could do that today. It's a 10. Now it's got a 90 score versus a -20 score. What am I going to do? The -20 score, even though it's a 10 idea, or the 9 idea that I can accomplish things and teach the organization and myself to accomplish, and continuing to move forward. So what happens is that if you have these tools and rules, right? So one of the rules is use the tools. Rules, use the tools, like the 6 R, 6 E's. If you do that, what you have is a framework that I can trust of tools that work. So I have a hammer, right? I have a screwdriver, these, traditional tools. If I'm a painter, I could have different paintbrushes for different things. I would have to have a different backgrounds, different ideas. So it depends on what tools you need for what job, but the tools exist in organizations, and it's the masterful application of those tools that allow people to grow and prosper. And if the ultimate answer is in leadership, is how can you be of service? Simon Sinek is probably the best in the world right now at teaching this, in my opinion.
Let's go, sir. Come on.
Yeah. So if you can be of service, if you can, and his big deal is why, right? If you can look at this and how you get there, you can be better. Now you go back to where is this biggest breakdown in the 6 R's? It's in relationship. It's because if people aren't performing in an organization, we tend to blame that person. Guy wrote a book called Peak Performers long time ago. Charles Garfinkel, yes. And in that book, he said, high perceivers, high achievers, high performers, high achievers do not assign blame. They don't fix blame. They fix the problem. So when you have to blame somebody, then that person can never recover. So we fix the problem. So it can be a communication error. It's either a people or a process error. Most of the time it's a process error because people want to do a good job. So if you've given them the right knowledge, the right tools, and the right support, they can do a good job. If they fail, guess what you do? You pick them up, you retrain them, and you get there. Now, one of the tools I work with all the time is probably the most simplistic tool that exists. It's a quadrant, which deals with able and unable, willing and unwilling, right? So if the person's able at a 9 and doesn't do it, you kind of look at it and say, why? Then you have to go say, well, was it the other side? Well, are they willing or unwilling, right? If they're unwilling, you have a motivation problem. If they're unable, you have a skill problem. If you have an unable and unwilling person, that's your fault. You hired them. And you
So
assign them a job that they were neither able or willing to do.
or willing to do. So, ladies and gentlemen, I must pause right here because you're listening, watching this episode of Beyond the Velvet Rope with Roy Cammarano. Your mind is melting. I know he's gone through R's, C's, E's. He's given us ideas, the toolbox. I want to remind you, make sure you go to the show notes. We're going to have a direct link for Roy and his information because this is not the stuff that we want to miss. And so we've heard Roy mention that he has spent decades, a considerable portion of his life, working and creating this and putting this stuff together in an easily digestible way. But that doesn't mean we're going to get it in our first feeding, right? So make sure you go in and you get all of this stuff because if you cannot tell, Roy is a well-read individual. He's gone in and done his research and he's had to learn from the bumps and bruises. But Roy, I get that you're a personable individual, right? I love the conversation. He's like, hold
For
on,
the
Neil, it depends
purposes
on who
of
you
this
ask.
podcast, that would be my intention. Correct.
Okay,
I have other
because
people who may line up on a different side of that conversation.
and that's where we're going right now, Roy, and you have just unknowingly given me permission to do so.
Hmm.
But in the intro, I talked about you being a direct, no fluff individual, that you are a man who's going to look at the realities, communicate those in a professional, loving, but stern way.
Hmm.
So, as leaders, as business owners, entrepreneurs, what do you think is one uncomfortable truth that you wish that every leader, whether we're talking family, organization, what's one uncomfortable truth that when you look at it, you wish that every real leader would confront today?
Yeah. I think it comes down to unmet expectations are either one of two things. They're unrealistic or they're uncommunicated. And an uncommunicated expectation today is a future resentment. And I think if we examine our role as leaders, which is I'm accountable for everything no matter what, that if I'm truly giving to that person the knowledge, tools, and support that they need, if they understand the purpose, the personality, the culture, and the performance metrics, and if I've given them the right tools, I've given them the right training, I've given them the right environment to get to that level. If they don't, then I picked the wrong person. Again, I'm 100% accountable. If they do, they've done it on their own. And you have to be in that situation uncompromising to your performance standards. And it's not, you have MAP, right? Minimal acceptable performance standards. Well,
Mhm.
I have a maximum acceptable performance standard. Is if you've got a better way, help me do a better way, right? It's like I don't want it to be minimized. I mean, think about this. I mean, I drive every day, and I think everybody on the road's a bad driver except me. And then I go to watch an F1 driver, and I'm like, yeah, different skill set. But that system is a map, right? Minimal acceptable performance standard gets done, and they get to be on the road, and I'm scared to death being on the road, right? It's like, yikes, I have to be more cognitively aware of what other people would do. Take that to the leadership position. I have to be more cognitively aware of what could happen if people aren't in their lane, metaphor, right? Person in
Mhm.
sales is trying to tell the person in accounting how to do their job, et cetera. And then there's a boundary spanning. So what you have to do is you have to have clear lines and the ability to create cross-functional teams so people have a new appreciation for the things that they're having to do and getting to that next level. So going back to your original question, which is what do I wish people do, is an unmet expectation is either unrealistic or uncommunicated. I believe that there's two things that differentiate us from apes: an opposable thumb and our ability to cognitively communicate. Only one of those is an advantage because miscommunication is the single biggest thing I deal with every day in every organization. is, oh, I didn't know that's what you meant. Oh, I didn't understand that. And I have an example for this, and it's like, okay, we're going to agree upon green. Can we agree that it's going to be green?
We're
And
gonna
then
say
you walk
yes,
around, you look
green.
around, there's like 87 different shades of green. No, we don't need green. Can you imagine if you went to a printer who's going to print an ad and you say, I want it to be green? They're going to pull out their 37, 57, 87 shades of green for you to pick the exact PMS color green in order to make sure it works. So when you say my customer's green, no. Because if I'm thinking green, I could be thinking turquoise green. And you could be thinking Kelly green, if those are actually green, but you get the idea. So in that,
Right.
it's that ability to communicate effectively. So you asked me, going all the way back to this, an unmet expectation because it's not communicated effectively. What I thought you meant, what I did mean. What did you hear me say? Go back to the telephone game from second grade,
Worst game ever.
and it's still true today in corporate wherever, and especially corporate America. That's
Okay,
true in
so
most first world countries, to be perfectly honest with you about.
and I 100% agree with you there. I have one final question for you, Roy, before we get to some rapid fire fun stuff. And so I know that you've mentioned relationships and communication, but in your leadership roles and a turnaround expert, and you mentioned, I believe it was 11 times that you came in as interim, we often want to learn from successful people, right? We want to learn from the victories and those tales where they made it to the top. But you've had to come in and look at dozens, if not hundreds, of CEOs, leaders, companies that had failed or were failing. Right. And with the way that you're thinking and you're looking at and analyzing the systems and the people and the processes, in addition to communication and maybe breakdowns in relationships, what patterns did you see, or is there a pattern or a characteristic or trait that you see in those that fail or were failing that you had to address numerous times?
Yeah. Leaders spend their time talking to the wrong people.
Elaborates.
I walk into an organization. There's 7,000 people. Okay, I'm now the interim CEO. I've got to make a change. You got to make an incredibly cognitive change. So I say to every manager, every leader, I want a I want to see your organizational chart, and in your organizational chart, I want you to color red, yellow, green. Here it is. Green is a peak performer, a person who you know, person who gets the job done, somebody who you can trust and depend upon. Yellow is you have to motivate them periodically. Red is you don't know them. They're constant complainers and the whole thing, right? So then the next thing I do is I say, when I walk through the organization, I'm going to meet everybody. I'm going to talk to people. I only want to meet the green. I don't want to meet any yellow. I never want to spend any time with the red.
Hold on, wait. Okay, so this is you going right back to Roy, no fluff, Roy. Um,
Green. I'm going to spend those times with the people who have proven that they can succeed, the people who have proven that they're, so that I can build. I mean, I spend most of my time when people bring me into an organization, they say, how do you get stuff done so quickly? I say, it's really simple. I listen to what the people tell me in the organization and I go do that. But I'm only talking to the greens because the yellows have in the willing and able haven't proven that they're ready to be there. Giving them the chance, but then in the red, not at all. Now, Harvard will tell you that whenever you come out with an idea, 20% of those people will love the idea, 20% of those people will hate the idea, and the other 60% are trying to figure out which side's going to win. I make it simple. The 20% that loves my idea, they stay. The 20% that hates my idea, they're gone. Let's explain. And then who's who in the zoo, and what do they do? Who are the biggest grapes on the grapevine? And make sure they hear directly that we're now a performance organization. We're not a personality organization. We're not about complaining. We're about accountability. We're not about anything other than gave you this positive expectancy, brilliance, and accomplishment. And I demand people being pros, persistency, resourcefulness, and optimism. And I'm only going to spend time with the green.
Okay, so now I said I lied. Okay, I apologize. I said that was the last question, but I want to follow up on that piece there, Roy. You mentioned that it comes back to the leaders, they're speaking to the wrong people. How do they receive that, right? Because right now, many of us are
Mostly
seeing.
with relief.
Okay,
They
because
don't,
no,
because they spend all day talking to complainers, people who don't want to do it,
okay,
people telling you all day long you're dealing with a complainer. I don't want to spend my time with a complainer. Think about athletes that get to an elite level. Most of the time they're incredibly optimistic. They're
hmm
persistent. They're working really hard. And then you have that next level, right? The Michael Jordans, right? The Kobe Bryants, people who are like
hold on,
masters in
stop, Roy. You were about to say LeBron, and you pulled off of LeBron. Why
I
did you
did
pull off of LeBron? I'm curious.
because he hasn't proven that same level of commitment. What he has done, there's so many impressive things about that man. My son and I, we argue this all day long. I'm Michael Jordan, he's LeBron James all day long. So partly he's going to watch this and I'm going to show him I'm consistent in doing it all the time. So that's a big part of why I did it, because I think he's incredible. And I also think he hasn't motivated to that next level, right? And I think these other guys have. And it could be later, after he's no longer an active player and a billionaire, that all comes out because he's been with the same woman. He's incredible. He's made championship teams. I mean, you cannot argue with the man's success, but can you put him at that next level of elite? I don't know. Havlicek's probably my number one guy, and nobody even knows who he is anymore. But do a one-on-one comparison between him and Michael Jordan. He was my guy growing up, Havlicek. I wanted to be him. I'm too
Come
short.
on,
I'm too
sir.
slow. I can't shoot. Wrong sport for me. But the bottom line is that what we have to do in our lives is we have to make our choices about determining what level of greatness we want to have. And it doesn't have to be economic. It doesn't have to be business. It can be spiritual. It can be parenting. It can be community. There's a kid on the internet right now who's really blowing up. He's in his early 20s. And what he did is he would walk home from school with a garbage bag. And the only thing he would do to clean up his community is pick up garbage every day. He'd put a garbage can, a bag of garbage in empty. And on his way home, he would stop and pick up garbage till he had it full. And then he was allowed to go home for himself. And he did that. What 15-year-old does that? But his level of commitment to himself and his community is incredible. So as we as leaders have people, how do we coach those people to the next level of purpose in their own life? How do you even discover it? It means you have to take the time to sit down and discover it. So going back to the green, the yellow, and the red, the green people would get a lot of time and attention because I want this. I wanted people to want to be green. Okay, they wanted to be green. I ran an organization and we were growing crazy. We were growing 300 people a month, 300 people, 500 people a month. We were growing like crazy. I would walk into every training session. There'd be 100 people in the room, right? It's going on monthly. And I would stop the meetings and everybody would say, oh, this is Roy. He's the CEO. We don't know what he's going to say, but we know it's going to be profound. And I'd say, thank you for making me profound. All I want to know is on a scale of 1 to 10, how well is this person doing? Are they an 8? Are they a 9? Are they a 10? And of course, everybody in that instance, the halo effect kicks in. They're a 10, right? Because they don't want to get that person in trouble. So the halo effect works to my advantage. But you have to know that in crowd control. So I say it's great because I want everybody in this room to know that we only accept that level of performance. And if you're not willing to give that level of performance, please don't come to work here. Please go pursue a career elsewhere. And I would do that to every training class. And they had already gotten the green, yellow, red conversation, so they knew that person in the front was green. But when you create a culture of how you're going to grow something and you're relentless about sticking to it, right? Person comes in, can I talk to you? Are you red, yellow? Are you red, yellow, or green? And they'd be like, I don't even know what you're talking about. Sure you do. Okay, I'm yellow. So when you're a green, come back and talk to me because I know what you have to say is really important. Go convince your manager you're a green.
Daggone, sir.
Does
Note to
that
self,
hold
Roy, right
people
here.
accountable? There's no fluff, but it's kindness, right? I have a tool, right? I have a tool for everything. It's called open, honest, and direct communication, but there's a denominator, and the denominator is in a positive, nurturing environment.
Let's go.
If you've got a problem, I'm okay with that, but don't come to me where it's a problem. Come to me where it's a solution. I have signs behind my desk. Is what you're about to tell me an excuse for a possible failure? Is what you're about to tell me a method for success? If they walked in the door and I pointed to the signs, 70% of the people, they turn around and walk out going, oh, I'm not giving them I don't want your monkey. I want you to solve your problem. I want you to come with a next level solution.
Come on, Roy.
If you want to come to me with like I have three things I'm contemplating doing, right? 1-3-1 rules. Okay, what are those three things? Let's help you pick the best effort. I had a woman who worked for me for many years, and she was explaining to somebody else. Well, when I worked for Roy, I never knew if he agreed with one of my decisions or disagreed with one of my decisions. And they said, well, how did he do that? And she goes, I don't know. But I knew that when I came into him with a problem, when I left, whatever I decided to do was my idea. and I had his full support and backing. And that's what I remember. And that goes
Love it.
to unmet expectations are either unrealistic or uncommunicated. When you communicate with people a future resentment, it means that your expectation was yours and not theirs. That when you give people the knowledge, tools, and support, when they give them the right resources, and you expect them to perform, they will.
Nothing but gold, gems, and nuggets that you're dropping. So, as Jim Rohn would say, my last this time, and I promise before we get to our rapid fire questions, you talked about, building this culture, building or reaching out to your team and your employees and finding out what drives them and what motivates them,
Mhm,
what they want out of this. I
mhm.
want to ask Mr. Roy Cammarano, what do you hope your legacy as a leader, as a mentor, as a father, a husband? What do you want said about you when you're no longer here?
Yeah. Um, I think he cared. He made people better. Okay, he cared. He made people better. I have a tombstone, actual, written out picture with it says he helped others attain potential they knew they had, but had not yet achieved. See, because oftentimes we know we're destined for even higher levels, but we allow
Mhm.
things to get in our way, and I don't want it to get in your way. I want it to be part of your motivation. Remember, I'm the guy that walked across the parking lot and saw the word MO7S.
So,
Okay. Only to find out later with a different perspective, it meant slow. So that's the thing I keep in my mind is what am I doing today to be the guy who doesn't, who says, but I get a lot of curiosity in that. So, but slow. I want to be reminded every day that what I have to care about are people and performance, people and performance, people and performance. And what I have to care about even more than that is the person and their performance and how it impacts them. And when I talk to people and I talk about what they want to accomplish in their lives, I care about that. Because if we talk about accomplishment in their lives, we can talk about accomplishment in many other places.
yes,
Most
sir.
people are willing to give me excuses for a possible failure as opposed to a method for success. It's like going down a ski slope and looking at the trees as opposed to the openings. What do you think you're going to hit?
Nothing but trees. Let's go.
So I
I
want the
love it.
openings. I want that opportunity, right? I want the optimism of getting to places that aren't there.
Good stuff. Roy, but before we go into now, that was my last question before we get
Uh huh.
into the rapid fire. I do want to say, sir, thank you for making a difference today because you made a difference
Thank
in
you.
my life. And this is good. This is fun. This is, you always have expectations based on reputation and
Mm
feedback and getting some conversation or some advice from those who have worked with your
hmm. Mm
guests
hmm.
before, but you were undersold. They set the bar way too low for you, sir. And I don't know if you're paying them to do that. But everyone I came across, they were like, hey, Roy, he's a good guy, right? Roy, he's going to leave something with you that's going to impact and improve and that you can apply today. What they did not tell me was that Roy was going to make me go back and reevaluate and analyze everything to make sure that I am doing life and business a way that can be reproduced and that someone else can implement and apply. So thank you for that.
So did I meet your
So
expectation?
no, you did not. You exceeded my expectations.
And wouldn't we
And
like that
now
about everybody that we meet?
and see, that's the goal. So now for everyone, in addition to your son, I want you all to know that if you don't get this from everyone that you meet, if you don't get an elevated experience from everyone that you meet, say, hey, you need to go meet Roy. You need to go have a conversation with him so we can know what the standard is.
Expectation dictates response. If I expect you to do a great job, you try and live up to it all the time. I say people have a really
Absolutely.
good reasons for doing everything they do and everything they say. I just want to know what it is and help them do it better. And if I can
Oh,
continue that every day with everybody I meet, then and they believe that because if my actions aren't consistent with my word, and think about it, they told you I was a good guy. I only let you talk to a certain number of people, didn't I? Because those reds probably don't have the same conversation with you that the greens do.
but the Reds never came across my desk because they wouldn't even care enough. They'll hear your name and just run the other direction anyway. So that's the way it's supposed to be.
As they would say in Russia, da eta pravda.
See, once again, dude, see, here you go again. Now, why do you know that?
Why do I know what?
Why do you know that terminology in Russian?
I'm married to a very beautiful Russian woman who
Okay,
That's my response to everything. Dada Pravda. That is the truth. Buy the new dress. Let's go.
got it. Now we're gonna make sure she does not watch the episode. Your son can, wife cannot,
There we go.
because when she says, I don't have anything to wear, you're right, right? That is the truth. Okay, so now it is time to have some fun, Roy. Are you ready?
Yes.
Favorite color?
Purple
Ooh, that's
or
mine
pink.
as well.
See that? Royalty.
See, look. Oh, okay. So I was going to. That's why I like royal purple. That's the reason I love it. Color royalty. Listen, kindred spirits. Favorite food?
Absolutely. Ooh. Japanese and then specifically octopus.
Ooh. So have you been to Japan? Okay. All right. So I love the Japanese culture. Not as much of a fan of the food as I am for Thai food, but I love Japanese food as well.
Yeah, Asian
Good
food is
stuff.
absolutely.
Oh my gosh. Now, do you do Thai food at all,
Of
Roy?
course.
Okay, now a
Sure.
question that I have, because this is one of the things that I get. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's not rapid fire. We're having a brotherly conversation here. Spicy. Do we like Thai spicy or American spicy, sir?
Thai spicy.
Thai spicy. I love Thai spicy. Thai spicy does not love me
My
back.
mouth's watering. Thank you very much for that. Here we go.
Hey, no, Roy, because for me, as you can tell, no sweat stopper here. So when I'm eating the Thai food, it's just rolling all down the back of my
There
neck.
you
It's
go.
a painful thing to watch, sir. Superman or Batman?
Ooh, Superman.
Really?
Yeah.
I took you for a Batman guy. Why Superman, if I may ask?
Because I thought you'd expect me to say Batman. Realistically, I can be a Batman, right? Because I'm a normal human being with a lot of tools, which is what I have, right? But it's
Mm-hmm.
that superhuman, only one thing, kryptonite, right? It's like I'd rather just have one weakness, kryptonite, than all my worldly human stuff. So if I get the choice of fantasy, I'm going to go for the big fantasy. I already have my own toolbox. That's what the entire book is about, right? The entrepreneur's
Right.
toolbox, right? It's Batman in there. So yeah, I could have gone there, but if this is fantasy land. I want only one weakness, and that's kryptonite.
And then mitigate that one weakness very, very much. I love it.
That's
Mickey
right.
Mouse or Mickey Mouse
Oh boy, Bugs Bunny.
favorite cereal?
When I was growing up, and I ate cereal because I no longer eat processed food, but it was either Cocoa Krispies or Captain Crunch.
Okay, I'm Captain Crunch. I thought you. Do you remember the kicks? Just the real little kicks
Oh,
you
sure,
ever?
sure, sure.
Yeah.
Kicks are for
Okay.
kids.
Kicks are for kids.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I can tell you a real quick story on that.
Yes, sir.
Evidently, I have no recollection, but my mother told me this. God rest her soul. When I was a kid, I got so upset because there was a bunny on the Kicks Are for Kids thing that when we bought Kicks, we had a little group of bunnies living outside, and I would give them Kicks cereal because I refused to believe they were only for kids.
Man, I tell
Yeah,
you what.
so
Even then, you were a thinker outside of the. There was no box for Roy, even at
there
a
was
young
no
age.
box. No, I was going to feed because I did not like that the rabbit couldn't have the Kicks, so I was giving it to the rabbit.
I love
I
it.
guess yeah, that's wow. Hadn't even thought of that in a long time. Thank you for that.
My pleasure, sir. One talent, if you do have one, or one talent that you don't have that you wish you did. What's one talent that you don't have that you wish you did?
The ability to play a musical instrument, any musical instrument. I've tried many times. I can't even carry a tune on the radio.
Hey, be
I
like,
can't
man,
get it.
so my dad would say he couldn't carry a tune in a bucket. I'm like, man,
There you
come on,
go.
dad. Thanks a lot, man. Okay, and then finally, best piece of advice you've ever received.
I'm gonna go with my dad, right? Which is why is there always enough time to do it over, but never enough time to do it right the first time? And that's where the correct versus quick comes from. So I think that that's really important for us to look at that. I think that if we really look at what we want to do and what we want to accomplish, we really should give thoughtful things thoughtful time and purpose. We rely too much on our decision making and what are called heuristics. It's those things that allow you to do lots of things without even thinking about it, which also steals our ability when you need to think about it from having the ability to actually think about it. So it makes you take a moment to sit down and function it. And I've written a book on decision making, and I have a 6-step decision making process, right? And then the second step of the decision making process, it's about discuss, but the 3 helpful hints are disassociate from your emotion, get additional perspectives, and then validate the information you've been given. And if we do that, we tend to make intellectually based and intuitively based, not emotionally based decisions. And I think emotionally based decisions are what's going to cause this society to have bigger problems. And I think we all need to take the time to sit down and have a positive expectancy belief that people really are doing the best they can do in the circumstances that they have with the tools that they've been given.
Man, Roy, when I say you are a bad man, sir, this is good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, you all have we have and I say this wholeheartedly from my heart when I say that we have gotten an hour of greatness, of insight, of just resources and resourcefulness, sir. Mr. Roy
Thank you.
Cammarano, thank you so much. This has been a treat for myself. I know it's going to bless the audience. And so the last thing I want to ask is there anything that you want to leave the audience before we conclude this episode, sir?
Yeah, have positive expectancy, be brilliant, and accomplish things.
It takes a lot of years to compile all of that into something so concise. So,
That's
Roy, thank you, sir. This has, I cannot reiterate enough. This has been a treat. I appreciate you. I thank you for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure that you go to the show notes, that you follow Roy, you connect, that you purchase the books. Everything that he is doing is for the betterment of those around him. We hear it in his voice, we see it in his actions, and we want to thank him, not in word, but in deed. So make sure that you take what you've learned today, whether it's your first or 15th time listening to this episode, apply it, but most importantly, share it. And make sure you connect with
Thank you.
Roy on any platform or
Appreciate
through
that.
his website, and he will be willing, as you will see, to share to make sure that you're going in the right direction, or to even answer questions of where do I start. So on behalf of Roy and myself, we want to say that we love you, God loves you, there's nothing you can do about it, and until the next time we see you or you
Amen.
see us, don't be average, be world renowned. Peace.
Yeah, I love that. That's great.